Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Coaching for Coaches. I hope you're well. Just going to wait while some people join us tonight. If you're here and you're watching live, just give me a like or a heart in the chat so that I know that you're here, and let me know that you're watching. Tonight's episode, we're going to talk about why coaching alone isn't enough, and I'm going to share with you three really practical things that I think that are really important in building a coaching business that aren't coaching. Obviously, there's a lot more to building a business than just that. And I want to, in tonight's show, kind of share with you really why coaching isn't enough. I want to kind of share with you a story I think that will illustrate this point. You see, I find a lot of beginner rookie coaches that I come across that I speak to when they first embark on their journey as a coach, many of them think that the thing that they need and the thing that all that they really need, I'm just going to plug this wire in, make sure the battery doesn't die. Many of them think that all they need really to get clients and to get going is to become certified. And if there's one thing that I am very much against, is misleading people into thinking that building a coaching business is all about the certification. Because it's funny, we get a lot of stick on social media from people because in some of our adverts it's branded as our one day as a introductory life coach certification. There's a lot of people that will in the industry kind of talk about how you can't certify people in a day. And for those that have been on our training will know that we don't certify people in a day. It's really a discovery day to explain the process of getting certified. But one of the key things that we do, and one of the key things that I've learned since being a coach, is that the certification is really just one of what I think is effectively 5 component parts that you need to build a great thriving coaching practice. And so what I want to do tonight is kind of share with you what 3 of those things are and why I think they're really crucial to building your coaching business, and really why coaching alone, having a certification, I believe is not really enough. So I want to share with you a story, and this kind of comes from, I saw a movie a few years ago. If you've never seen it, I recommend it. And it's called Founder, and it's the story of McDonald's, and it's specifically about Ray Kroc. Now, Ray Kroc was not the founder of McDonald's. He was, let's call him a business partner of the McDonald brothers for a period of time. And then he, in quite a ruthless way, actually, and not a way that I think was really in integrity, quite a ruthless way, managed to get McDonald's from underneath the McDonald's brothers. But one of the key lessons from the movie, and the reason why McDonald's has grown, and it probably wouldn't have grown if it weren't for Ray Kroc's kind of taking the business over, is what we learn in the movie is that the McDonald's brothers, where there's a conflict because they go into partnership together, and the McDonald's brothers are really against kind of globalizing and making this thing go the very in the very initial part of the movie, make it go stateside. You know, they want to stay in a particular region because they've kind of got this vision that they need to keep it like them, and they don't want to change it, and they don't want to dilute it and all this kind of stuff. And Ray Kroc says, we can take this thing big, and with the right systems in place, you can scale it without it diluting the quality of what makes your brand unique. And they're against it. They're like, no, it won't work. And then, to cut a long story short, he manages to get McDonald's from them. And I think what's really, really powerful is about that movie is it made me realize, watching that movie, the power of really marketing and business and having bigger thinking. Because the one thing I learned from that movie is that the McDonald's brothers thought that the burgers alone were enough to make them succeed. Like they had a big vision, wasn't as big as Ray Kroc's. They had a big vision, but their vision was that the burgers alone will be enough for them to be successful. And obviously Ray Kroc, kind of rightly points out, as it turns out, that just because you got the best burger doesn't mean you're going to be the best. Because let's be honest about it, McDonald's, let's be honest, they don't have the best burgers, do they? They're not the best burgers in the world. There's many more burger chains that have come along that provide better burgers, and there's all these kind of gourmet burger places and stuff now as well. But the fact is, they're the best known burger chain in the world, right? Everybody knows the Golden Arches. So what I want to kind of share with you is, I think there's effectively, based on this principle, if you apply this philosophy to your coaching, then there's really three things that you need. It's my belief there's really three things that you need to build a really great coaching business. And for me, when you have these three things, you will likely have more clients, you'll generate more income from your coaching, and you'll be in a better position to create sustainability from your coaching. Because a lot of coaches who do succeed in getting the first client, the second client, third, and so on, often they run out of steam, energy, just know how to get more repeat business. So even though they maybe start out and get a few clients, they never have the sustainability of being able to replicate it long term. And so what I want to kind of do is share with you that I think there's three things that you really need to build a great coaching business that aren't coaching skill to make your coaching business work and succeed in the long term. So there's really three things that you got to have, three things you got to do or have. So you might want to write these down. So I think the first thing that you need, when I look back on reflection, from when coaching for me wasn't working to when it started working, the first thing that I think you need is you've got to master marketing. See, when I started my coaching business, I had this elaborate dream idea that I was going to coach men on meeting women. I think it was because I didn't have a girlfriend and couldn't get one. Feel sorry for me. And so that didn't work, obviously. And it wasn't until I went back to the drawing board and had some advice from a distant mentor that said, for those of you that don't know my story, you know, I've got a long background in fitness. My mum ran a gym for 20 years. I did field sales in the gym industry for 8 years. And so it was evidently clear to this particular mentor. He was like, why don't you just do coaching for like gyms and fitness people? And to me, I kind of pushed back on that because I had this thing about like, oh, I've got to work with this dream client. Like I've got to be like Hitch. if it's not this perfect niche of me coaching men on meeting the one, I won't be fulfilled. And I learned very quickly that not only did that not work, so I wasn't fulfilled, but it also meant that I wasn't helping anyone. So when I learned that, you know, ultimately what I needed to master was marketing, I went about studying that, and in line with the mentor kind of giving me some advice and starting to learn about marketing, I started to get some traction and I started to get some results, and Miles More members grew from there. And I was in Lisbon in February consulting on with a gym out there. So it's a business that still runs today. So the first thing you've really got to master outside of coaching is marketing. So if you said, well, Miles, where should I start? I'd say if you're a new coach and you're just starting out, you want to give at least 20 to 30 minutes a day to learning marketing. And you can do that by finding a podcast on marketing that you like, reading a book on marketing, maybe just read for half an hour a day, a marketing book. There's some great marketing books out there, which I recommend. Cialdini's book, Influence, Selling the Invisible by Harry Beckwith. Very good. So yeah, Purple Cow by Seth Godin. So really, really recommend that you start there and really start to master marketing. Second, really these first two things really symbiotically link in with each other. The second thing I think you've really got to master is you've got to master sales. I was lucky, you know, I got into the gym industry and my role was sales, and my earliest experience of selling was something I was very passionate about that made a real difference in people's lives in the form of fitness. And I always say I couldn't sell anything. I could only sell things I'm really passionate about, right? And I think a lot of rookie coaches, when they start out, they have this limiting belief that they either don't want to be a salesperson or they don't like sales. But if you look at the dictionary definition of the word sales, it actually says somewhere in there, transfer of enthusiasm. And that's the thing, like, you know, if Sage is trying to persuade me to buy her an ice cream and she wins, then she's sold me, right? That's sales. Sales in its purest form is just a transfer of energy and excitement and enthusiasm. And so if you're passionate about coaching, I implore you to master sales. A good friend of mine, Matt Elwell, wrote a great book, Start with a Close. Really, really good book. Grant Cardone wrote Sell or Be Sold. These are really good sales books that I recommend. Really help you understand the psychology that underpins like why a person buys or doesn't buy. So you've really got to master sales. So in addition to marketing, I recommend you find some form of sales related literature that you can study, that you can read, so that you can start to think differently about sales and start to see sales as a really good thing. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that how well you do on your initial coaching conversation with the person, how well you communicate your invitation to a person to have a coaching call with you, ultimately that is sales, and your coaching business will live or die by how well you do those two things from a sales point of view. So really important. And then last thing for tonight, third thing I think is really, really crucial. A lot of coaches don't have this, and I didn't have it in the very beginning, is you need a feedback loop. So what that means is you need a sounding board, you need an external person, mastermind, mentor, something outside of you to give you feedback on how well you're doing. Feedback on how well you're doing with your coaching, with your marketing, with your sales, how well you're doing as a human being, how well you're doing working on yourself. You need somebody that's going to give you effectively tough love. You know, for me, one of the reasons why I love my mentor is because he will give me tough love, right? He will tell me if what I'm doing I shouldn't be doing. You know, Miles, what are you doing that for? Stop doing that. It's a waste of your time. Stop doing that. Do that instead. Do less of that. Do more of that, right? And for me, that's what having mentorship really does. And for those of you that don't know, and if you're not in it yet, and you want to talk about it, then you can let us know. But our Master Coach Academy is really an all-in-one. It's a place to learn marketing, to learn sales, to get coaching, mentoring, support from me and the team, and a mastermind group who can help raise you to a higher standard. So 3 things that I think that are really crucial in 2022 that you need that aren't your coaching. Number 1, you've got to master marketing, because without marketing, there'll be no leads for your coaching. Number 2, you need to master sales, because you can get all the leads, but if you don't have the ability to close the sale, there will be no sales. And number 3 is you need somebody who can give you feedback on how well you're doing. Because a bit like learning to drive, if you learn to drive by yourself, you could potentially only learn to do it worse than you're already doing it. But obviously with an instructor, they critique you and make sure that the way you're doing it is obviously getting better. So I hope you found those 3 things useful. If you have, I'd love to hear what your key takeaway is. Put it in the comments somewhere in the video so that I can see what your key insight or takeaway is. Maybe put in there what you're committed to now doing as a result of today's video, and I'll